for Catholic school employees in the gospel today. It will be hard for one who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven, so we're all safe. This past year, well, first of all, I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Father John Hollowell. To those of you from St. Michael's, welcome. I've been the chaplain here for the past 2 years and also a teacher of theology here. And but last year in the spring, had a conversation about a new assignment for me, where I would be moving to. And Father Janine for our archdiocese, who kind of moves us around and kind of works with us to get us where the bishop wants us and needs us at. And he knew of my love for teaching, but nonetheless, basically through a conversation, it was decided that there's not enough resources for me to continue teaching. I'll still actually be here at Ritter on Mondays and Tuesdays as the chaplain and guest lecturer or whatever, but no longer teaching here full time. And he said during that meeting, he said something that gave me pause and kind of wanted to reflect with you on today. He said that I was the last of a long line of priests who have been teaching in our Catholic high schools. And he said that line will not start up again in the foreseeable future because of the fact that we have a lot of parishes that need staffed and need help, and there's just not enough priests to go around. And I think that there's a lot of reasons for that. I think a lot of times people talk about a shortage of priests, and I don't think it's really necessarily that we could certainly always use more. But a lot of it has to do with just the fact that there's a lot of small parishes that are open, and I think over the, 10, 20, 30 years, probably, kind of restructuring that and moving that all around will be beneficial. And I think, again, there will be a presence of, it'll be an option for a priest to teach again someday in the future. But I think the reason I share that with you is because, again, as we hear all the time in Catholic schools, the mission of a Catholic school is being handed over more and more to you, to lay people. And that's not, I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing, and there's a lot of benefits to that. I think one of the benefits of that is that whereas in the past it may have been easy for students to kind of say, well, we heard that, but that was from a priest, and we kind of, but then, they didn't necessarily hear it from everyone else. Well, now they're either going to hear it from all of you or they're not going to hear it. And I think the fact that they can hear it from different angles, the more times a message is heard, and from the more people that it's heard from, the better. And so the message that the Church teaches, the message of our faith, is now being more entrusted to people, to lay people. And I think so that's one of the positives. I think one of the challenges, though, of that is that, of this fact that priests are no longer able to be present, one of the things that we have to think about going forward, and this was true even when priests were working and able to teach and so forth, is this idea, there's the concern out there about our children learning about the faith in Catholic schools. And we hear a lot about Catholic identity in schools, and we took that little survey at the end of last year, those of us who are from Ritter, and to look at kind of how is our Catholic identity at Ritter? Is it something that's being passed on? And I think I forgot to say at that point, I sent out an email later. Brenda Jackson raised the great point. She was concerned, is the Church trying to move to only Catholics teaching in Catholic schools? And that's not it at all. Absolutely not 100%. But what the move behind all of this is to see, how is the faith being transmitted to kids in our Catholic schools. That's the concern. In the short term, SATs, ACTs, AP test scores, those kinds of things, are fine. And that may in fact even be what most of our parents are only concerned about. But I think that from the perspective of, the church moving forward, and especially over the next 10 to 30 years, there's going to be more and more bishops, more and more people who are, in positions of authority who are not really concerned about SAT scores and AP scores and ACT scores as much as they are going to be concerned about how is the faith being passed on. Even if parents are only concerned about ISTEP scores and ACT scores, there's a lot of other ways that the church can divert its resources besides Catholic schools. And so the concern out there is going to be ever more, how is that faith being passed on? We see this coming to kind of a boiling point already in our Catholic colleges. The number one place to lose your Catholic faith is at a Catholic university. Statistics bear that out, or a Catholic college. And so there's a lot of concern about, is that the best place to put our resources? And so again, I think to take a moment to think about, how do we pass our faith on, and how do we do that as lay people in the Catholic Church is really important. Along those lines, at least for Cardinal Ritter this year, Lisa Bowdy, Jenny Lingrich, Joe Finnig, and I went to NCEA last year, the National Catholic Educators Conference. And Jenny and Lisa came up with the idea of having a theme for the year. And the theme was the dignity of the human person, human dignity. And Mrs. Hoy and we all bought into that, and that's going to be a theme for us for the year, in terms of like our Catholic identity, the things that we do here at school. And I love that. I think it's a great idea. And this is the list that you might see in some of our classrooms of the Catholic social teachings. And at the top is life and dignity of the human person. And it didn't just accidentally end up there. It's first for a reason. Because everything that the church teaches actually flows out of the dignity of the human person, a concern for the dignity of the human person. And everything that guides the church's actions in our world is centered around that idea of that every person, no matter how small, no matter how old, no matter how young, has dignity. Has dignity that is infinitely greater than the rest of creation. And so I think that having this kind of thing out there can kind of help us in terms of our Catholic identity and kind of how we work on that as a staff, as teachers, and as administration. I was reading a biography this summer of John Paul II, and it's talking about, he's widely credited with essentially bringing down communism. And it was interesting that it gave me pause to reflect. He talks a lot in there, the biographer uses a lot of quotes. And what drives John Paul II to fight communism is not like, some of the things that drove other people. It was all about what communism says about the dignity of the person. And I think that was really interesting for me as we were getting ready for all of this year. I think the dignity of the human person drives the church's critique of communism, also its critiques and challenges that it puts forward to democracy and to capitalism, to Nazism, to dialogues with other faiths, to its commentaries on the positives and the critiques of the welfare system, of contraception, of abortion, stem cell research, the positives and minuses of Charles Darwin's theory, its dialogues and interactions with science, healthcare and economic reform, the importance of the arts. All of these things that the church champions comes from the dignity of the human person. That idea that every human person has a worth that is of infinite value. And so there's opportunities, I think, for all of us, no matter what our department, no matter what our subject area, no matter what our specialty is. There's opportunities, if we look for them, to pull in Catholic social teaching, to pull in especially that dignity piece, the dignity of the human person. The church has lots of things, lots of resources, and I've been working over the last year, and will continue to do that, trying to put some of those, or at least examples of those, in your hands. But again, it's up to you to decide how you're going to use those, if you're going to use them at all. There's a lot of other things out there that I'll be trying to get into your hands. The church has, through the years, issued letters to teachers, economists, writers, scientists, artists, sociologists, historians, psychologists. Basically, if you're teaching something in this school, the church has a lot to say for you. And I think the challenge is, and I hope to be of assistance to you, cheering you on and wanting to help in any way I can, and assisting you in that challenge of passing on the faith to our young people. At the NCEA, Joe and I went to a presentation on Catholic identity in schools, and it was okay, but the guy was talking about how their school's way of pulling in Catholic social teaching, or just Catholic identity in general, was to have an essay contest, and their math teachers all had an essay, how do you see God in math? And he shared with us the winning essay, and the one that was published in the diocesan paper, and there was more than one problematic theological thing in there, and it was kind of like they were championing this, I think how we do it is important. I think you can kind of treat it as like, oh, there's this other thing, by the way, Catholic identity. We're going to drag that in here as a bell ringer. Or you can, I think I've learned to see that the church has tons of things to say, tons of assistance to offer to people in all these areas. Again, intelligent things to say, good things to say, things that will enhance, not like be this add-on that we're just doing because we're in a Catholic school. It'll be stuff that can balance and make our curriculum even more well-rounded. But we have to use it. We have to want to do that, and it's in your hands. It's up to you as teachers today how you're going to bring that Catholic identity in, and if you're going to bring it in at all or not. In the gospel today as well, Jesus says that blessed are you who give up homes and lands for the sake of the kingdom of God. And you have done that. I know the paychecks that we get. I got it for 2 years at Chittard before I entered the seminary as well. You make extraordinary sacrifices for the church, for your students, and I just ask that as you continue to do that, thank you, first of all, for doing that. And also, I just ask that we continue to reflect and think about what are we doing to help pass this faith on to our young people so that they may one day as well enter into the kingdom of God.